No, I'm very excited to bring back one of the most respected and experienced handicappers in this country, and Mr. Tony George from DocSports.com. You can follow Tony on X at TGeorgeSports. Tony, it's almost Christmas. I see you got your red on, my man. That must be more Christmas than Chiefs, I would think, right?
It's more of just paying respects. It's been a couple week-long funeral here in Kansas City, and the final nail in the coffin was last Sunday with Mahomes going down, and I did have the Chargers in that game. I have no loyalty when it comes to a bankroll. So, nonetheless, it's been. I guess I should be wearing my Nebraska. I know we're going to talk about our alma maters here in a minute. I should be wearing my Nebraska. Right? Longest win streak in Division I college basketball is not Duke, not Florida, not Bama. It's Nebraska to this point, to this 15 games in a row, dating back. They won that tournament in Vegas last year. That outside of the big dance, they won that tournament, and they just haven't lost since. And they just
Tony, we'll get to college basketball next season, my friend. We'll get to. I'm not going to bring up volleyball or anything right now.
No.
Let's just. I know our good friend Sean came and visited you.
Yes, he did. He did.
How was that?
We had fun. We watched some games. We met down at the future side of the sports books. They are now met there, and then we were there for about 20 minutes. And I said, "Do you want to go to some of my dive spots where I own the television sets and all these dive bars? I walk in the door and they change it to whatever we want." He goes, "Yeah." So we bounced around to some of my dive joints in the Northland and had a good time. And I introduced him to, just so you know, Wisconsin boy, right up there by Sauk City, where Doc Sports was founded. He's right down the road from the guy that owns Doc's. But anyway, I said, I have the best cheese curd anywhere to be found on the planet. He is in the state of Missouri. He didn't believe me. He's a believer now.
It must be the size of your head if that's the case, my friend.
Oh, no. He downed him. He's I'll try one, but I'm used to and that whole plate was gone in 5 minutes.
Of course,
based on Sean's physique, you know how that can happen quickly.
If Sean was really hungry, anything's the best food he's ever had. So I'll be the judge of that. But speaking of Nebraska, wasn't there a really intelligent and modest Badger fan that recently told you that Dylan Raiola was going to enter the transfer portal quicker than flies on shit?
Yeah, you did, and you know what? I'm not sad to see him go. It's getting ugly up. It's getting ugly up there. They fired his brother, decommitted. They fired his uncle, and I guess I read an article in the Lincoln Journal today where the coaches, Rule and a couple other guys, went to his house to sit down with him and to kind of just swell the rumors and find out where he was at. They were in there like 5 minutes. He told them to F off and they left.
You know what? He's doing them a favor because Dylan Raiola is not worth the $4 or $5 million he stole from you guys. And he's definitely not worth anybody in the future because he fucking sucked. He is, that guy is nothing special. Sorsby from Cincinnati is better than Raiola. And there is a lot of guys better than Raiola. And if anybody thinks they're going to pick up that piece of garbage with all of his demands and his dad having a coach or brothers or whatever, cousins, and his agents and all that, F that guy. And like I said, man, he played for 1 year in high school down here in Chandler with a stacked roster and he won, but it was mostly because of the stacked roster's name. Like he transferred to Georgia. The guy's transferred freaking high schools his whole life. This guy's, he's no NFL quarterback to me. And I think you guys dodged a freaking bullet by letting his ass walk.
Yeah, and the thing of it was, even last year, I thought he was soft. He didn't want to run the ball. He didn't like taking hits. He wouldn't a busted pass play on 3rd and 6 when he could have clearly ran for a first down. You're going to have to take a shot, especially with Patrick Mahomes being his quote-unquote mentor, and how, he's Patrick is one of those guys that he'll take the shot to get the win.
Oh, he's also Graham Mertz. He also tweeted about Graham Mertz. You know what happened after that? Feels like when Mahomes tweets about somebody, they go to shit.
But yeah, I think he was, there was an offensive line issue, but he was a statue in the pocket. This TJ Lateef kid we got now, he's a lot better. He's a dual threat. He opens up the offense more for Holgorsen to call. Unfortunately, we lost Emmett Johnson to the NFL draft. He's not going to play in the bowl game, which is Nebraska's biggest offensive weapon. Utah's strong up front. And, now that Whittingham has announced that he's going to be leaving coaching, Utah's going to wipe the floor with Nebraska in that Las Vegas Bowl. I can tell you that right now. That's going to be a 21-plus point win for Utah.
It's too bad he's leaving, because he'd be a great spot for Nebraska to grab him, I think. I like Whittingham.
Yeah, I was looking at the recruiting. In the last year, Nebraska was 21st in recruiting. And so I know you put Nebraska, Wisconsin there, and we won't go in depth about Wisconsin's year in football or the 30-point loss they took to Nebraska last week in basketball. But Nebraska went from 21st in recruiting.
You just did, Tony.
Well, I just wanted to get it on the table. Nebraska's 95th so far in recruiting, 0 5-stars, 2 4-stars. The 4 stars we got was a cornerback and an offensive lineman that a lot of people, Notre Dame was after both of them, blah, blah, blah. We had 8 3-stars. And I look at Wisconsin. They were way ahead of Nebraska in recruiting this year. Despite their record, they came in at 58. The problem is you got 0 5-stars and 0 4-stars and 14 3-stars. This is according to Rivals.com, which is kind of the Ken Palm of college football when it comes to recruiting. So I think Nebraska's, Matt Rule was supposed to turn things around. We hadn't been to a bowl game in a decade. We've been to 2 since Rule's been there. And, we're pleased with where we're at in terms of progression, but we wasted a lot of time and effort on a shitty quarterback that was the worst 5-star rated quarter. Georgia or Ohio State, he had committed to both and left both. The guy's about as loyal as, a crack-addicted wife looking for a $20 bill. But at the end of the day here, we'll be better off without him, and we'll have a more versatile offense with the kid we got now, if we can keep him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I didn't look at the recruiting rankings. They're never as good. In football, it takes a year or two to gel anyway. If they have a great recruiting class, it doesn't mean they're going to be great this year. It's always the next year or two. Got to hold on to the guys. I mean, sure, there's a few freshmen that are going to shine. A lot of them redshirt. They play like 3 or 4 games and they redshirt. They're allowed to play in a bowl game. But, both schools have definitely taken hits. And it's tough. And I don't think Matt Rule or Fickle is the future of any playoffs, in my opinion. So real quick, before we get into the college football, can you tell our listeners and viewers, I should say, how do you bet bowl games? What's your best practices?
Well, as you know, just take tonight, for example. Let's take this ODU and South Florida game. You got a coach that's going somewhere else. You got 2 quarterbacks that are starters that are sitting out. How do you handicap the game? You got 2 quarterbacks with no experience at all. And now they're thrust into the biggest game of the year, a bowl game, and you have a coach that's attention elsewhere, in South Florida's case.
Yeah.
So when college football, it used to be prestigious, and you got everybody's A game when it came to a bowl game, because everybody worked all year long to get to a bowl game. It was a privilege to play past the regular season. Now, unless you're in one of the 12 playoff teams, it's not. As a matter of fact, it's an inconvenience for these players, and many of them go to the portal, they sit out, or their heart is not in it. Now, I'm not talking about the 12 teams involved in the playoff, because they're still – everybody, including Tulane and James Madison, is in the hunt for a national title. They're in the playoffs. The winner of those playoffs wins the national title. So this is maybe when David could beat Goliath. I don't see it happening, neither one of those James Madison or Tulane game, but there's 10 teams there basically that can win the national title. That's where we're at. Other than that, they don't give a rat's ass. So like for tonight, you got to take out all the offensive numbers and you need to throw them out the window. You can't handicap them because you don't know who brings what to the table. So now you start looking for games like this and you want to look at the total, and I look for unders, like tonight, 53 points. How? Plus ODU's strength is their defense. They've allowed like 6, 0, 10, and 10 against them in their last 4 games. South Florida, last 2 games allowed 3 and 18. They're not going to have that South Florida offense,
Yeah, it sucks with all the
there
movement.
You go. You got a backup quarterback that had 200 yards rushing last year. That was one game last year. I can't use that as a professional handicapper as a barometer for what he's going to do tonight because he hasn't touched a freaking ball in a year. He's thrown like 15 passes total. If you're behind, and you have to throw the football playing catch up, 200 yards rushing in a game last year against Tallahassee JUCO, that doesn't mean jack shit to me, and it won't mean it in the game. So, I understand what the guy's saying, but a 1-game sample size does not give you a legitimate handicapping point, for some of these guys, and you're going to see that in a lot of these games. In bowls, I look for underdogs. I always have. I like underdogs in bowl games. I think that's something I always look at. And then what you need to also look at, if a team's strength was their offense, and this is going to be, I wish this was on display in a more dramatic fashion. Lane Kiffin was the play caller at Ole Miss. Okay. Fortunately for them, they're playing Tulane again, which they racked up 40-some points on. But that's going to be a barometer. Are they going to be able to have 40 without Lane Kiffin? And I don't care what your thoughts are on Lane Kiffin. And I think he's an asshole. But here's the thing. The guy can call games. The guy is he's a prolific play caller in college football. Nick Saban doesn't hire somebody to be an offensive coordinator because they're a slacky. This guy can call a game. So what kind of effect does that have on their offense? And you look at teams in bowls that have lost offensive coordinators because they were good, and they've already taken a job with another team, and they're stopgapping that spot in the coaching staff. You want to go through every roster, and it might be a defensive coordinator. San Diego State's in a bowl game, right? Well, their defensive coordinator's at Nebraska right now.
Well, the good thing about Old Dominion, the good thing about Old Dominion is that Ricky Ron, I mean, the coach is still there, so I do give them set. This line moved a lot. It went all the way down to 2.5. I have plus 7.5. I almost bought back at South Florida. I missed the window. I've been busy, but I kind of thought it'd go down a little bit, but it doesn't sound like too many people are opting out. But yeah, it's still about motivation, but it's more about players opting in, opting out, and wondering who's going to do it, because you're going to get a lot of that, my man. Let's get into some playoffs since you mentioned your buddy Lane Kiffin.
About that South Florida game, you as a bettor and a professional handicapper have to know that Byron Brown is 90% of their offense, and he's on the sidelines with a headset on. Mm-hmm. It's hard to pull the trigger on him, dude.
It's hard to pull the trigger because they had bigger aspirations than Old Dominion. They thought they were going to go to the playoffs. That's my biggest handicap for this game. Let's go Alabama, Oklahoma, and starting right out. And what's up, Andrew? Thanks for stopping by again. It's going to be a great game because it's kind of like a Friday night only playoff game. It's kind of weird they didn't put 2 on Friday. I would have put 2 on Friday, but Alabama versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's kind of like now flipped here. They're kind of the favorites. Very close to pick them here, Tony. Who do you have on this one?
I'm going Alabama. I think it's very difficult. A couple of reasons why. It's very difficult to beat a top 10 caliber team twice in 6 weeks. It's extremely difficult to do that. And if you take a look at the games that Alabama played headed into that Oklahoma game, I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. These are back-to-back-to-back Georgia, Vandy, Missouri on the road, Tennessee, at South Carolina, LSU, and then you step into Oklahoma. I mean, that is a murderer's row of SEC teams that you're going to wear yourself out and get banged up on. And now they've had time not only to reflect on having some rest, having added prep, and what I saw from Oklahoma offensively down the stretch, even with Mateer at quarterback, did not impress me. And they really struggled with a shitty LSU team there in Norman till the end of that game. And the one thing that jumps off the page at me here, Alabama's last 10 games, 9 went under. The only one that went over was the Oklahoma game. It
was a low total. It was a very low total.
Well, this total's dropped from 46.5 in that first game to 40.5 for this one. And in Oklahoma's last 10 games, 8 went to the under. I think it's going to be a defensive battle, but I could only lean. Matter of fact, Alabama -1 is what I saw one pop up at -120. I don't think Oklahoma can beat them twice.
Well, it's -105. Alabama, just pick them on DraftKings, so even better for anybody. Yeah, and I like Oklahoma a little bit, and I mentioned before, I just don't like how Alabama finished the season. I think that I do give Kalen DeBoer a little credit that he has the experience in the playoffs, especially when he was with the Washington Huskies.
Right.
So there's something to be said about that. But Oklahoma should have a strong home field advantage here, and it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to watch the game. I think I actually wouldn't have included either of them in the playoffs based upon a most deserving, not necessarily power, but a most deserving perspective. But one of them is going to win and one of them is going to advance. What about Miami A&M? So you had this A&M team that was rolling until they ran into Texas at the very end. And what's funny, people rip on this Miami schedule. Well, if you look at Texas A&M schedule, they happen to avoid all the best teams themselves in the SEC, and finally they play Texas and get bounced. What do you think? They have a good home field advantage at College Station there, but this is past 3, my man, and it's a pretty high total of 48.5.
Well, I'm going to fast forward on your menu list. Beer bet bangers plus money. I would take plus. As a matter of fact, this is one that I bet. It'll be on my premium card at Doc Sports. This is just one I'm going to tell you. Miami on the money line plus 145. I think that A&M is overrated. I did go down to Columbia, Missouri, which is about 2.5 hours south of Kansas City, and I watched Missouri and A&M play. So I've seen them.
What did you think of them?
I thought their quarterback was unbelievable.
A&M's
quarterback's unbelievable. But Missouri was a lackluster team this year. Missouri was the middle of the pack team. That being said, if you take a look at I still think Miami's biggest liability is their head coach. Because I'm going to tell you something. Cristobal, you can't trust him. He's like Rick Barnes at Tennessee in college basketball, although he managed to get a big win last night against Louisville. But that being said, if you take a look at Miami's losses, they lost to SMU and they out-yarded them. And they lost to Louisville, and Beck threw 4 picks in that game, which was the reason they lost. So their 2 losses were just kind of flukish. Man for man across the board, this is one of the most talented teams in the country. And I can't say the same thing for A&M. Now, College Station, that's an issue. That's a real tough place to play. But I think if it's not freezing cold down there, and it looks like in the weather it's not going to be, I think Miami can go in there and beat them.
Miami's better statistically. They say the only reason you see this line past the 3 is an SEC favoritism. I think Miami's the better team, and I agree with your money line play. Tulane versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss minus 17.5, total 56.5. This one bugs me a little bit. It feels like, a lot of people are on Ole Miss. A lot of our handicapper friends are on Ole Miss, but is something that's giving me pause on it. It's the whole Lane Kiffin saga. I think Ole Miss still will be motivated, but Tulane saw this team before. I don't know, man. I'm probably keeping away from it. I even lean to the under, but there's just too much variance in this game for me to get involved.
Yeah, I like to have Tulane into their season. I know their coach is leaving and this, that, and the other, but I'll tell you one thing. I would lean under in that game as well. I still think Tulane's going to have trouble moving the ball on them. I took Tulane in the regular season in that game on one of my premium cards on that Saturday, and they just never got off the frickin' bus. But at day's end, with all somebody said if you had to take a big underdog of the James Madison or Tulane, if you had to bet one, I would bet Tulane with some level of confidence. I could not say – I think Oregon can name the score against James Madison, and maybe they will. I don't know.
Well, let's move into that game. Let's move into Oregon versus James Madison. I mean, it was at 21.5. It's now down back to 21. I just cut it in half, Tony, like you always love to say. I cut it in half. I took 10.5. I like it at 11.5 in the first half.
Yeah.
I just think it's a situation where Oregon comes out just furious from last year and losing as a 1-seeded to Ohio State, and they remember it, and they're going to make sure that's not going to happen. But at 21, this could be 30-3, and then they just bench everybody for the next game, and a freaking backdoor comes on in. It just could happen.
Yeah, that's the only way that you can bet that. And so when you see a game where there's this much margin in the line, the number one question I ask myself, and I've done this for 30 plus years now, can I see that team up by 2 touchdowns at halftime, yes or no? And if the answer is a clear-cut yes, I'm not afraid to lay 10 or 11 points, as long as it's under 2 scores. I did the same thing last week in the NFL, for instance. I'll just give you an example, just recent. I knew that Philadelphia was going to beat the dog shit out of the Raiders. I knew it. But for me, laying double digits in the NFL is absolute taboo. I will not do it because it's the NFL. But I asked myself a question. Could they be up by a touchdown at halftime because the line was 6.5 or 7? Absolutely. Because Las Vegas brought nothing to the table. So it was an easy top play for me. Just laid 7. They're up 17-0, and then they finished up, 33-0 or whatever it ended up being. But you could have laid the 11 or 12.5 or whatever it was. But in this game here, I think Oregon, they come out firing on all cylinders. I really think that the speed, the talent, the size up front, James Madison, great football team. Nice story. I watched them in their championship game, Kiev, and I'm telling you, they weren't that impressive. Who'd they play, Troy?
They played Troy and almost lost. And not just that, the Washington State game. Yeah, they're toast. Let's face it, man. I'm just not laying 21. Much better to chop it in half and bet the first half. What about a Thursday game? We have Thursday and Friday games here. We got Arkansas State against Missouri State, minus 1.5, 54.5. Anything on that game or pass?
Pass.
I like the over. I think both teams throw the ball a ton. Arkansas State 10th in pace. This is one where you're going to see points. Defense is going to be secondary to these two teams that really don't care to stop each other. The tackling is going to be suspect. Take the over 54.5. Kennesaw State, Western Michigan minus 3.5, 47.5 total. Not going to lie, I had to take Kennesaw State here, and I did because I just have them equally power rated. There's nothing better from the MAC to Conference USA from my perspective. Maybe if you threw Toledo in there in a healthy Ohio with a coach, but I mean, to be honest with you, I would take any dog in like a MAC versus a Conference USA type matchup past the 3.
Yeah, if you 3.5, I'd buy it down to 3. I'd take Western Michigan. I like this team, and I like them for one reason. Lowry at quarterback for them is a massive dual threat. This is a dangerous cat. He can run it, he can throw it, and Barkley at running back averages almost 5 yards a carry. The last 4 games.
Is he playing?
The last 4 games that not Western Michigan, but
Kennesaw State, the Owls.
Yeah, the last 4 games they played, including their championship game, they gave up 236 yards average on the ground. And I'm telling you, Western Michigan can run the frickin' football. You ask me what I look for in bowl games, I look for teams that can run the football, because I'm telling you, that travels well. It's like a good defense in college basketball. If you can't hit shots from the floor, who gives a rat's ass? If you got a defense allowing less than 40% from the floor, that still travels well, no matter whether you're having a cold night from the floor or not. That still keeps you consistent. Same thing in college football. If you can run the football against a team that gives it up, you're in it all the way.
What about a little Memphis versus NC State? NC State minus 4.5. There's a big total of 57.5 that just recently went up. I think it was like 54.5, and it kind of flew up there, Tony.
Yeah. Problem with me and AC, the last 21 bowl games ACC teams were involved in, they're 3-18 against the spread. That got to concern you a little bit.
Yeah.
That's concerns me.
That was
now
should.
Memphis, remember who they was it South Florida that they upset? With South Florida was on their way to the playoff, and they went up to Memphis, and Memphis smoked them.
Yeah, I think it was.
That quarterback they got's really good. Memphis.
Yeah, I think it was. South Florida beat the crap out of North Texas, but they lost to this one, I believe.
Yeah, they lost to Memphis. They were laying like 5, if I recall.
And Andrew comes in and says the ACC is the worst that it's been, and that's true. It has been the worst. But this Memphis team thought they were a playoff team for a while, and they lost their coach, Silverfield, and I don't even think he was that good of a coach. But I don't know. This is a situation where I like NC State I like the way NC State finished. Now,
yeah, they played well down the stretch.
They sure did down the stretch. You know, they kind of got it together here, and I'm wondering if they're kind of playing for next year because their coach is in place. While it's just weird for Memphis because their interim coach is not going to be the coach for next year. So you don't even know what's going to happen. It's kind of like either it could be good because the players are trying to get him another job, or it can just be bad because they know he's not going to be there and they're just kind of being lazy. I don't know. It's a tougher handicap in that one. I do like NC State just because
Memphis gives up big chunk plays on defense. That's one thing they do. You can hit them with big plays, and if North Carolina State tries to expose that, they could get out. A lot of these games that we're talking about, Western Michigan, the Memphis NC State game, there's betting opportunities in game. I want to see a lot of these, and the same thing with the Oklahoma-Alabama game. I want to see what's going on and start looking at some halftime props, in a lot of these games. And you're probably going to find more opportunity there than you are on the surface out of the gate.
Also keep in mind that we've seen players play the first half and sit the second half, especially if they have a future, because you're going to be like, oh my God, this player's playing. Yes, this is great. He's going to play. Then you bet the full game and you get completely screwed.
Cam Ward did that last year.
Cam Ward did it last year. You're absolutely right. Thanks for that. That's exactly who I was just thinking of. So great call. So let's move on to a little. We already did that. Let's go to Washington State, Utah State on Monday. Utah State's -1.5. It was 2.5. It's now Washington State money's coming in a total of 49.5. I'm not going to lie, I didn't bet on this. I've been considering Washington State because they've been so well away from home. But this is just a weird team. And Washington State lost their coach too.
Iowa State.
Yeah, he's going to Iowa State.
He's a good coach. That's a big hit. Bronco.
Oh, that was supposed to be the worst team in college. It's supposed to be the worst power team in college football. Or they ended up blowing out Oregon State the second game they played. And I don't know what happened the first game, but they were the much better team. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but losing that coach is a big hit for them. I like Bronco and Mendenhall up there at Utah State. I think he'll do a good job. I like him. I like him in that game.
I'm just wondering. I'm just waiting on this one. There's some guys in the transfer portal like Kenny Worthy, their cornerback, linebacker Anthony Polano, their wide receiver Tony Freeman, who has 3 touchdowns for Washington State. So I just want to kind of wait it out a little bit because when Jimmy Rogers left, it's just it's a situation where I don't know how good the backup in the interim is, but I don't know. I think that. I still lean Washington State, and I was a Utah State backer pretty much all year. They just have a lot of choke in them, like they did against Boise. Boy, did they screw New Mexico!
You just have to think. You have to think about the mindset, like this game in particular. Again, we're handicapping college bowl games differently than we were 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. Guys like me and you, we are. It's totally different. It's way different. So. But one thing that has never escaped me is these still are 19 or 20-year-old kids. And the heart and soul, what turned Washington State around was that head coach's leadership. And when he leaves, that leaves a void. Not only just from the play calling, game management, practice schedule, everything changes. Everything is different. On top of that, you have kids that, we're not, he preached all year long. We're supposed to be we're a dog turd in a cantaloupe patch. We shouldn't even be in this game. We're a 20-point underdog. We're this, we're that. Nobody wants us in a conference. We're just the bastard child. And he got them to buy in and believe, and they believed in that coach, and he left them. So now they're doubting that they thought they were building something there and we're going to stay there and get Washington State back in a conference and in contention, and he's gone. And now you have players even doubting whether they're going to be, shall I go to the portal? Shall I not go to the portal? To me, there's just a lot of uncertainty with Washington State now with these players, especially with the coach gone, that gives Utah State a big edge in that game.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about this. It says Jesse Bovett's going to be the interim coach. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
It's just a big circle, a jerk. I don't know. This is an impossible game to handicap in my opinion. Let's go to the next one. Toledo, Louisville -6.5, total 45.5. This is another one where there's all kinds of craziness. There's rumors about Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor he might go to the NFL. I've heard, I don't know. Louisville's got Miller Moss still and Chris Bell, their quarterback and receiver. That's potential opt-outs. Jason Candle clearly took the UConn job, leaving Toledo there. So quarterback coach Robert Weiner is going to serve as the interim for now. I see 2 unmotivated teams here playing each other, and there's still injuries. This is another probably wait and see. I'll lean the Toledo that it's up to 6.5, but I just can't get to it right now. I don't know if he's going to take all his players. Like remember what's his name did when he left Marshall last year. He went to Southern Miss, took 18 guys. Marshall couldn't even get on the field, and they had to cancel the bowl game last year. It feels like this could happen to this one too.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm not getting there. There's too much uncertainty. I mean, I know if you're out there and you love college bowls and betting college bowls, try some in-game stuff. Don't spread it around all over the place, because you're throwing in a game like this, you're throwing a dart up. You're gonna go, I'm gonna lay it with Louisville. They have ACC talent. Well, first of all, the ACC sucked this year. Second of all, their head coach is in play. His name's being mentioned everywhere. Rumors of him going even to Michigan. I mean, all this crazy stuff. There's a lot of distraction in Toledo. Toledo's a better underdog than they are a favorite. But now their coach is gone. Yeah, he's just waiting to leave to Iowa State too. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on to Western Kentucky, Southern Miss. Yeah, I'm picking the beauties for you right now. I mean, unfortunately, this is all we have until Christmas, these games.
Yeah.
And I think it's just better to hit Bourbon Street if I'm playing in this bowl game, if I'm a kid from Western Kentucky. And, Southern Miss, I mean, are they going to be motivated? And it's Charlie Huff. I should have said Charlie Huff. This is the one that we were just talking about. I mean, it's funny to look at this one because you got a guy in the transfer portal and Dylan Flowers for Western Kentucky. They don't really have any injuries, but Southern Miss has some potential opt-outs too, because how am I supposed to trust that Charlie Huff doesn't take a bunch of dudes with that we have no idea that's going to happen? It could hit us in the face at any freaking time. I mean, I can't trust this until right before the game. Now, obviously, if you like the Western Kentucky side, which is really high at -5.5, then you probably have to bet that now. But it's a situation where I think the best unit on the field is Western Kentucky's defense, personally, ranked 19th in success rate. So I think best unit on the field, you go with Western Kentucky, but I don't know, another situation that looks like crap.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a huge drop off. Anderson's a veteran head coach, for Southern, just filling in there. I like Southern Miss in that game.
Yeah, Blake Anderson's going to serve as that interim coach.
Yeah.
And I think I lean Southern Miss, but I mean, now that it got to 5.5, I mean, sometimes you have to switch your lean here when that happens. I think my number's like 4 or something like that, but yeah.
I had a checklist here. I'm looking on my other screen here. Because I have checklists for the game, pros and cons for each one based on my database. And I have a Southern Miss with a big advantage on the line of scrimmage, especially on defense in that one, just for what it's worth.
Okay, no, it's worth something. Thanks for letting us know that. And, if everybody plays, it's probably a play on Southern Miss. Frisco Bowl, UNLV versus Ohio plus 6.5, total 65.5. Man, this keeps going up and up and up in UNLV's direction. I mean, Ohio's coach went on leave, right? Brian Smith leaving John Hauser that taken over.
Right.
I
don't know what happened there. I mean, I'm telling you, I bet UNLV way early when that came out, because I like this UNLV team. There's a lot to be said for the job that guy did coming in there and taking over, because Barry Odom had them going. And he probably should have never left, but he took the big money in Purdue and, getting his ass handed to him every week now.
Well, they're better than they were the year before. I mean,
they are.
And when you do take over a job, you got to take them over when they're complete bottom feeders, so you can just go up from there. It's not like
you can see how good of he was a good coach, and he was a good Missouri. I was shocked Missouri let him go, but he came in after Pinkel got fired for drinking on the job and all that crap, but all the DUIs. By the way, he just got another one in the Ozarks.
No shit.
That's like his 4th one. So, but anyway, that being said, Mullins has done a hell of a job there at UNLV, but now the line's getting a little out of control.
Cal versus Hawaii is the final bowl here. And,
I love Hawaii in that game.
It's so funny because you got JKS, who's from Hawaii, as Cal's quarterback, right? So he's gonna have some fans and family there. I'm sure that you're gonna get the overwhelming Hawaii home crowd, though. But and Hawaii's gonna be motivated. They get to play an ACC team. This is in Hawaii against FIU. They're gonna be excited. I think Hawaii did a great job this year, but I just feel like the quarterback's better on the Cal side. I looked at the over, but then I kind of shied off it because both teams play a medium tempo and both teams are good against the pass, and both these freaking teams pass all day. But just maybe this clock stoppage will get it over anyway. It's probably a solid number, but I can see myself getting to the window at some point here. I think it's funny. You think back on them playing another ACC team, and it was Stanford, the very first game of the season. It's hard to handicap from the first game of the season. With so much variance going on, but it just feels like Stanford should have beat them. Stanford should have beat them, but Stanford also whipped Cal. So I'm gonna lean Hawaii. I think Pick'em is probably a good number.
Chang does a good job. They're at home. That's just a tough place to go win. I don't. California is just 1 week they're a world beater, and the next week they're just a dog turd in a cantaloupe patch. I don't know.
They're tough to bet this year. They're tough to bet this year. I'm sure I lost some bets on them because of what you just said. It's weird. They showed up. They don't show up. Did they lose to Syracuse? Somebody terrible they lost.
Yeah.
It was a team like that, and it blew my mind. And it's Justin Wilcox got fired, and that's a big part of the handicap too. And you got Nick Rolovich, who I think the team liked Nick Rolovich, but then they hire the DC Tosh Lupoy from Oregon. So I'm like, are they going to play hard for Nick? It's just.
I thought they give Andrew. There's so much going on. At that school, there's just too much. Hawaii's a lot more consistent, more bankable. I mean, bottom line. I like them there.
All right. Well, hey, any other future bowls that you like or maybe placed a bet on?
Oh, I pounded Utah against Nebraska.
Oh, yeah. Look at you just hating on your team. I've been pounding every team against Kansas City in the NFL, but I will say that I might beat them on this week, believe it or not. I mean, I'm shocked.
I can't even trust them this week.
Yeah, I think I have to trust
Tennessee in a teaser.
The books are going to need them. The books are going to need them this week. I'm going to be with the books. That's just a little NFL tell that I have. But let's see what that Nebraska line is up to now. Freaking 16 and a half.
Yeah, I bet him at 14.
No, Jesus Christ.
I'd still bet. That was before Whittingham even said he was leaving, because we have nothing. I'll tell you one thing about Nebraska. They are soft up front. This quarterback they got gives him a lot because he can move around where Raiola couldn't move around, which is why he ended up with a broken leg. But at the end of the day, this quarterback can move around. But you just lost a running back that's going to go probably in the second round of the NFL draft. That was basically 65% of their offense.
They confuse the shit out of me.
They can't block anybody up front. In Utah, what are they known for? Physical. Look at the physical. Michigan, Penn State. Teams that were physical up front just kicked the shit out of Nebraska all year long.
Yeah, I might have to lay it with Utah even at that number. I'm not excited to do it. Maybe I just chop it in half, but I totally get what you're saying there. This is a good buy to Whittingham. I'd be shocked if Nebraska puts up past 6 freaking points. I'd even maybe look at
I would be shocked if they. I would tell you what. I would be. I would be very surprised if Utah did not win this by 21 to 24 points.
All right.
Very surprised.
Looks like Andrew likes San Diego State this week. I like them too. That's still kind of
the
future I'll be talking about.
34-0. That's bold.
Well, Minnesota's not a good traveling team, that's for sure. But I think San Diego State.
Flex always rowing the boat.
Yeah, he's been sinking the boat on the road. He sunk it against Cal. Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to beer bet bangers then. Any plus money bet that you like?
I gave it earlier. I like Miami plus the 145. I think that they're going to win that game outright. I think Texas A&M is going to get exposed for playing a weak ass schedule. Their claim to fame is beating Notre Dame by 1 where they gave up 40. That's their claim to fame.
Yeah.
Give me another one. They beat up on LSU. Who gives a shit? LSU's terrible. I mean, go down the list. Miami, I know they're an ACC team. the reason that Texas A&M is hanging 3.5, they're an SEC team and they're playing at home. But I think Miami is talented, and if the coach can get out of his own way in that game, they can win that by a touchdown. I like a plus 145. I really don't like a lot of other underdogs, here to speak of, but I do think Miami plus 145 carries about as much value as any bowl game out there before Christmas Day. If you want to bet the money line,
I like it. I like it, and I want to try to find one that I like for this week because
you sent me that email this morning. Said I'm looking at these underdogs going plus 400, no shot. But I go freaking Miami, almost $1.50.
We already nailed 14-1 on Mendoza. I gave that. I was a beer bet banger. Mendoza before they played Oregon, 14-1 to win the Heisman. So that was fun. I forgot to mention that. I'm glad that, so it looks like beer bet bangers are kind of paying off if you just kind of
tell me what you think about my bet I made 4 weeks ago. Matt Stafford to win the MVP.
Matt Stafford to win the MVP. I made that. Oh, that was another beer bet banger. I got at 12-1.
Okay, I got him at 8-1.
There you go. We're on the right side of these things. Oh, that's a fantastic. He's -4. He's going to win the MVP. Even if he loses to Seattle, he's going to win the MVP.
$500 at 8-1, man. I'm looking forward to that one. I'll go out to Vegas to pick up that ticket. You have to drive up. We can celebrate there at the Legacy on that one.
Well, let's do it. I'm going to go. I'll go with Southern Miss plus 170. Why not? It's beer bet banger.
I like that game.
Yeah, Southern Miss, I don't know. I expect people to not follow Huff again. That's got to annoy the shit out of some of these kids. And, a lot of them seem like they're still playing, so I'll do that.
They got, like I said, they got a big advantage. The offensive line versus their defensive line is a mismatch, and that prevents the other team from scoring a lot of points.
Yes, absolutely. All right, my man. I mean, there we go. Let's get some beer money from these wonderful bets that we made. And I agree with your Miami one. I already bet that one myself. So, okay. Tony, you rock. Where could our listeners get your great information for this weekend?
Now, DocSports.com. Just go over there. If you've never been a member of Docs, there's a tab on the upper left-hand corner of the website that says free $60. We'll park it in any new member account. No obligation, no hassle. And it comes with a profit guarantee. I'm off a 5-0 week in the NFL. I got my first batch of bowls up. Just put it towards I think like a week package of football is like $99 or something. So you get it for like $39. You're going to get all my bowl picks between now and next Thursday and this weekend's NFL action. We got a big top play going on. I love the board this weekend in the NFL. It's going to be low volume, but I like a couple of games a whole lot. So DocSports.com is where you find me. And, of course, YouTube. You can find me over there daily with free plays on Doc Sports YouTube channel. So just type that in.
All right. Make sure you guys check out Tony George at Doc Sports. Tony, you're the man. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks, buddy.